In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace rear drums in brake shoes on a Ford F-150. Remove the tire. This lug nut is a 21 millimeter. Remove the drum. Sometimes you just wiggle it back and forth. You're going to need a brake spring tool, and you're going to remove the spring that's on the exterior of that little stud, and that's spinning around. Pop it off. Now what I like to do, even though I've been doing it for a long time, I put them in order on the leaf spring. Then I'll take this spring off, one in the back, noting where it goes, where the bottom part of it plugs in, slides in. And that is a slacker cable. We're going to take that off. It's located on the bottom. Put that right there. And I'm going to take this spring off. And that holds that little elbow that cable goes over. Put it there. Now I've got the two mounting springs, and there's one spring down below here that holds the adjuster. So I'll pull that one off. And then I'm going to take the adjuster out before it hits the floor, noting that the adjuster part wheel heads towards the back. And then I could take my adjuster sleeve, and now I got these two springs that disconnect. You're going to need a brake tool that pushes down and spins that cover. What you're doing is it's slotted, and the actual holding spring stud is slotted. Take your shoe off. See the location of that? I just reset them up so I don't lose anything. Put it on that side. This is the adjuster rod for the top. Goes right in the center. Make sure the spring is facing the side I want it to. Now I'm going to take this spring off. Here is the e-brake arm and the pivot that it mounts to on the shoe. I'll take my pin out from the backing plate and attach it to that spring. And place that over here. Now we have to remove this lock elbow from the arm. You can take it off the cable. It's a choice you can do. All you have to do is pull it back like that and pop it off. Now we can remove that and install it on the new shoe. All right, before we assemble it back together, I have a little catch basin underneath, and I'm going to clean up the backing plate. You can take this off as long as you remember it goes upward. Check your wheel cylinders, make sure there's no fluid leak. Perfect. Well, let's clean it up. I like to take a wire brush, and I'm going to clean away these. You see these high rises? There's 3 of them on both sides. And I'm taking whatever rust I can off. Make sure that there's no holes in it. I'm going to do all 6 points. And I'll clean it one more time. And while that is drying, I'm going to do the transfer of the e-brake arm on the e-brake shoe. All right, so now we're going to take off what I call a horseshoe clip or a retainer clip. And the way I like to do this can be kind of difficult, but I take a flathead screwdriver and you have to like spread it. Sometimes you don't know what size to get. You spread it, and then I'll bring this around so I'm going to use the back of the shoe. And I push. Just like that. Once I get that little piece opened. I can get a screwdriver in there, pull it back and forth. And remove it. Then you take your e-brake pivot arm out, and you want to clean this. You want to make sure there's no rust around there. You can use a wire wheel brush. You just want to get all that rust out. I did notice one thing is missing on this, and it's what they call a spring washer. I just happen to have one because I like to save things. So there's the spring washer. So it has looks like it's bent, but it's very thin. And that's going to sit there. So when you push it up in and put the horseshoe clamp on, it's spring loaded, so it doesn't rub against the shoe or wobble. So now what we're going to do is take some caliper grease, and we're going to just lightly dab around this pivot. You don't want rust building up. So this just assures there's no rust building up. Now I'm going to get my spring washer, put it on, go back to my, what we call the primary shoe. That's the shoe facing the tailgate. So now that you have your spring flat washer on there, I'm going to put that on. What I'll do, sometimes I'll get a pair of pliers, see if I can seat it just a little bit. There we go. Take the new horseshoe clip and slide it right on. You can take a pair of pliers. Try and take the pressure off of that spring washer. Just like that. Then I take my cutters and I squeeze. So once you get it flush, I just spun it around so that I could get the pliers on it a little bit better. You have to squeeze these, just like that. So now it won't come off, and the arm is nice. It stays, moves, it pivots. It's got that grease on there, plus that spring. Now before we put this back on the car, we are going to take some caliper grease and grease up that backing plate at the high points. So these are the high points I was talking about, the ones that we sanded earlier. And you just want to put some grease on it so that the shoe itself, housing, moves back and forth smoothly without wearing the steel out. That's why I use the caliper grease. It's water resistant. Doesn't have to be tons, just enough to raise on that raise of the tab. I'll put a little bit up here so that pivot washer will stay on. Now let me show you a little way I do this to get this spring to work. So I take a pair of pliers, I hold that bottom lead piece, and then I take my cutters and I proceed to gently squeeze that spring. I'm going to use the pliers as a pivot. Pull up and then squeeze. And now you'll see the gap I have there on that cable. Then you take the arm where the cable sits, and you just release it. And now it's on. You let it hang down if you want. I'm going to get my spring tool, and I'm going to bring this right up to place and make sure that fork from the wheel cylinder goes right in that cutout notch. And then I'm going to take my spring and pin, push that pin right through the back, put it through the spot on the shoe, just like that. And you're going to push in and twist till the pin falls through. So now we're going to put that crossbar in with that before we put the secondary shoe in. Line it right there. And now we can grab our shoe, line up the top. Grab our pin, put it through the back, have it come right out through that mounting spot, get the spring, and then our tool, I put the cover on, I'm going to lock and twist. And just make sure that that is crisscross like it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to put this crown washer on. That's why I put the grease there, so it stays. First spring was on this side. And just hold it, and where that pivot point is, we're going to add some grease again, because we want that elbow to pivot and move freely. So now put that cable pivot in there. Now we're going to take the end of the spring that goes there, slide it in, bring it up like this. Now this is where, while you have that in place, grab your slacker cable, put it on there, run it down through the back gently. Don't have to hook the bottom up. Now we're going to get our tool. Make sure that washer's flush. Slide your brake tool in, and then just pull up. Get your thumb out of the way. There it is. So that side we'll take care of in a second. Springs in. Make sure this doesn't come out. It will sometimes just pop right out. That's in. Cable's still on. That's good. So now we're going to go to the other side and put the cable on that side. Now we're going to put the spring on, knowing it goes in the top hole. You can hold on to it right there. Get the same tool, go the opposite way. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize it, but this tool is for this. You're just going to take it and squeeze the ends on. I'm not a fan, but that's what that's for. I like to use regular pliers. There we go. Same with the inner one. If they get stretched, they could come undone. Okay, our shoes are assembled except for the bottom. So now we're going to take our adjuster, make sure it spins. And this is a pivot. Someone already went in and greased it. It's perfect. There is a washer there. Make sure that washer is still there. Push this down, get all the air out. Now this is dry. That's the color of the actual adjuster. I'm going to tell you what I do here. I am going to grab some Never Sees and I'm going to put it in there. I use copper. You can use copper or silver. I'm just going to fill the threads. Just like that, that's all. Now I can take my adjuster and its reverse threads, thread it on. Bring it all the way to the bottom. We'll adjust it up once the drum's on. That's all you gotta worry about. You'll be fighting it quite a bit if you leave the adjuster out. Now I'm gonna line it up. Remember the adjusting part's in the back so that it will be adjustable by the window. Set it in the pivot points. I'm going to put my hook on. Set that there. Now I'm going to take the bottom spring, the last spring, poke it in the hole, spin this around, just like that. And we're going to take it and line it way up here. So grab with your cutters. This is how I do it. You can use needle nose, I guess. And we're going to bring the spring right up and put it right in that little holding spot, just like that. And now you see that there's this tension on this arm, but it's loose because that's all the way loose. So we can now, before we put the drum on, we can spread this out just enough that it starts to make contact. Now we can put our drum on. Let's line our drum up. Perfect. So now I'm going to put 2 lug nuts on so that I can spin this freely and adjust the brake properly. You want the drum to be seated. Sometimes you can put the tire on. I prefer to make sure it's 90% there before I put the tire on, because you have to take it off if you have to do something inside, right? So now I'll take 2 of these lug nuts. I'm just going to bring them down so that they snug up. That's all I want, snug up. So now with my brake adjuster tool, I'm going to go in, find that little star on that adjuster, and I know that I'm going to go down and up on it because, like this, you can hear the clicking, because when I assembled it, the retaining arm, the locking hand on it, was on the top. So if I go this way, it's going to stop it. So I want to bring it like this. I want to turn the drum while I do it and feel the drag. I just want a slight drag, then I'll put the tire on and double check it with the weight of the tire. That's good. Now I'm going to put the tire on and recheck it. So let's take off the 2 existing lug nuts that we put on there. Grab the tire and put all 5 lug nuts back on. We're just going to snug them up because the wheel torque is 100. Do it in a crisscross pattern. I'll leave that on there to remind me to torque it up. Now we're going to spin this wheel. I want to get like 1 complete turn out of it. Now I'm going to go in there and back off on those because that drag is too snug. If it's too tight, the shoes expand when they get hot, and then this wheel will start to lock up. See, ideally, you want to take like the valve stem, put it at noontime. You should be able to give it a good twist, and it should spin around once to once and a quarter, and then your shoes are adjusted perfectly. I de-adjusted the shoe by about 1.5 turns on that adjuster. Stem is at 12. Let's give it a spin, and we want it to be almost a full turn before it stops. There we go. So I'm at 10. It stops right there. I like that adjustment. I'm going to leave it there. And then don't forget to install the rubber boot in the backing plate. Please, this stops the water from getting in there and damaging the whole system. So let's do that, then we'll lower it and torque the wheel. Okay, now we're going to lower our truck and torque the wheel. Wheel torque is 100 foot-pounds. We're going to do it in a star pattern. Double check. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.